name is Henry Jenkins. I worked at White Baking Company, bakers of tip-top bread, for 12 years. I've been a union member for 62 years. At the bakery, I held a position as a shop steward for about 10 or 12 years, and after that, I got interested in the union, and I started organizing. So then I went on the organizing staff in 1961. And, 1961, I started organizing, and of course, I was an organizer for about 20 years. And then I became a service rep, and from there to the area director, the position I hold at the present time. You know, I've faced a lot of problems, but you know, I handle those with those guys, and even at union meetings, you know, back in that day, the union hall, you had one side where the black would sit and the other side where the white would sit. You know, you didn't sit together. They sit on this side of the aisle, and you sat on that side of the aisle. Man, I tell you, it was tough back in that day. I mean, we went through all of that. When I went to organizing, I can tell you, I organized around Birmingham, Montgomery, and all through that black belt, Selma, Demopolis, and in Montgomery, I was shot at one time. During the day, 12 o'clock, I was eating a sandwich going up to Whitfield Picker, and was known as AFL-CIO. They had both plants at that time. And I was eating, I wasn't paying much attention, but I heard the shot. So I got a couple blocks up there, I stopped. I got out and I looked. I said, something hit my car. And I got out and looked, and I was driving a 62 Ford. And it had that wide rim around the windshield. And I looked and I saw where the bullet hit that rim on the windshield and ricocheted off on the windshield, and it shattered the windshield, but I had never paid no attention. I was going up there to meet some workers at AFL-CIO in Whitfield Pickle. And that day I didn't tell them what had happened because I didn't want them to get afraid of anything. So so then I went on up there and I met them. But I remember the day before, we was at the same place. It was I was meeting about 6 to 8 white women and about 4 or 5 blacks. But I remember the day before, that was a red Bonneville Pontiac. I never forget it. There was 5 guys in that car, and they was parked about a block and a half from me. They stayed there the whole while I was with these workers. When they went on back down the street off their lunch break, I left. And when they left, this Pontiac, it left from where it was. And I watched that Pontiac because the first thing they tell you in this business, you watch everybody. Don't let nobody walk behind you or do anything, you know, you stay clear. And I saw that red Pontiac, but I don't know who it was with the shot because I didn't see it. But anyway, of course, back it up a little bit. Beginning of my stay there, I was still working on organizing Whitfield and AFL-CIO. Every day, I'd be down making house calls. And the police, they never said anything to me, but they was right on my back. Everywhere I go, they would go. So then I called into the office, and they told me to go down to the police department and talk to the chief. So I went to the police department, and I met the chief. And the chief, he was from Jasper, Alabama. And he told me, he promised me that afternoon, he said, well, they may follow you today, but he says, we're not going to have that. He said, if you get you a ticket, you bring it to me. He said, but if you follow you anytime after tonight, and they're not supposed to follow you tonight, he got on the radio. And he says, you let me know. But from that day to this one, they got off my back. I didn't have no more problem with the police there. And but man, I tell you, you was harassed from one way to the other back in that day, because this was in 1964. Yeah, 1964. And I left there, that campaign, 1964, and we had another organizing campaign down in Selma. Of course, I started that campaign in 1965, and of course at that time, Selma had a city ordinance that black and white couldn't meet in the same roof, and of course I didn't know it, you know, and you couldn't meet on the same roof, and so when we had a meeting, we had to go out of the city limit and meet under a tree. So, but we did that. But we had to go out. One guy had a place down there on the Alabama River, and we'd go down there and meet, but we couldn't go down there no more because the mosquito was too bad. Man, the mosquitoes bit me. I had to go to the doctor. They had ringworms on me, looked like. And but anyway, we found a place we could meet, and so we're out of the city limit. So that's where we started. Kept on in the city limits, kept on organizing the Selma. We have a couple of units down there now that I organized back in the 60s. Henry Brick, still there, and that's when I organized Henry Brick back in the 60s. And I'm proud to tell you today, Henry Brick is the second highest paid plant in Dallas County. The paper mill is the highest, and Henry Brick is the second highest. And proud of that. Yeah. When I left there, and I went over to Demopolis, organized, and of course, I went to Greensboro. I was organizing Massengale Poultry, was an independent poultry plant at that time. And I organized them, and of course, while I was over there, I ran into a little problem with the clans. And, but, you know, I was one, nobody ever just scared me from nothing, you know. So, we got that straightened out. Well, we got it under control, I'll put it that way. On the morning, November 1966, morning, we had an election over there at the poultry plant. And one of the workers coming in told me somebody had my hood up on my car. I had a 65 Ford at that time. And for when I got out there, that was the Klan. They had then went on back over there on the dock at the plant. So I didn't go to the car because I didn't know what they had did. So then I called a ride down to the church where I usually meet at. And I called Birmingham and I told them what was going on. So they told me don't go to the car because they don't tell me what they did. So I didn't go to the car. So they called. The governor was out of town, and the lieutenant governor, they couldn't find him. And so then I think it fell to the fire chief, or whoever he was. So then Don Slavin with the Civil Rights Department out of Washington, he called me and told me, said, you just stay put, we'll get somebody in there to check on your car. I said, okay. So it was Dust Dog then, again. So he said, Highway Patrol hadn't been there? I said, no, not yet. So he called me back. And he said, go up there now. They up there now. So I went up there. Highway Patrol told me, son, well, your car's all right. I found a 6-pack of beer under your hood. Well, at that time, Hale County was a dry county. So, you know, I figured they put that under there. They want to put me in jail. I said, well, it wasn't mine. But anyway, you got it, huh? So, with the beer being under there, then the sheriff got involved. Mayor Bailey was the high sheriff in Jefferson County at that time. And so I called back up here, and they called Mayor Bailey. Mayor Bailey called out there and told me they better not lock me up. So then the Highway Patrol finally told me, he said, I have orders to escort you out of here. I said, is the car all right? He said, yeah. I said, well, I don't need no escorts. You know, because I know everybody's going to be looking for me to come back north to Birmingham, and I went south. I went to Selma. I went from Greensboro to Selma, and then from Selma to Birmingham. And that's how I came home that night. And that was one of the days you don't forget. But later, I made a contract there with Massengale Poultry. And so the company agreed to a 10-minute break. People had never had a break. So then they told me one day, they said, we're not going to give this break, it costs too much. I said, you got to give the break, it's in the contract. He said, no, we're not going to give the break. I said, you got to give it. So he said, we ain't going to give it. So when he cut the break off, I struck the plant. And so then I would go down there from Birmingham. I'd go down there every morning and come back every evening. So one evening I was coming back, the highway patrols checking driver's license. So the two cars in front of me, he stopped. And when I got up there, he told me, go ahead. So then I was suspicious of that. That man don't know me from Adam's house cat. So then, well, okay. So the next day I went down there, my wife had a cousin teaching music at Hale County Training School. And she wanted to know if she could ride with me, go to her cousin's house. I said, oh yeah. So she went with me that day. So at night we was coming back. Dust off. Highway 69 is not like it is today there in Tuscaloosa, coming into Tuscaloosa. And I come in, we were there on 69, just as we crossed that railroad was there at that time. I heard a little tire, I heard a bullet. And my wife looked, and the bullet come right between her and I, and went into the back seat. So I was about 2 blocks from a Texaco service station. I was in Tuscaloosa city limit at that time. So I drove on up to the service station, called police. They came out and made a report. The detectives come and they said they made a report. I don't know. And but I know from that day until this day, I hadn't heard anything. I hadn't heard nothing from that day to this day on that trip. Nothing about the shooting or nothing. Nobody called me or anything. The most famous union leader I met in my career was mostly Alvin Heaps, because he was the one who mostly encouraged me to stay on at it, and I have to say him. Yeah. Well, I had determination. I wasn't gonna quit. I was gonna hang in there with it, and I had a. So a lot of people told me, I'd let it go. I said, no, I'm not gonna let it go. I'm gonna hang with it. In fact, I was in this plant in Greensboro one day, and the man told me that if you don't let us go with this break, he said, I'm gonna have all your folks get out of the union. I said, well, they had to get out. I said, oh, we gotta have that break. I had all kind of threats. You name it, and I had them. You know what I tell people now? I had everything in this business but a baby. That's the truth. That's it. Oh, well, I would tell the next generation, first, get involved. Stay involved. Stick with the union, because that's the only survival for working people.